I should have known something was wrong the moment he walked in. It wasn't just the way he moved, smooth, deliberate, like a predator assessing territory, or the 3 men who flanked him, their expressions carved from stone. It was the silence that followed, the kind that makes your skin prickle, that tells you danger just sat down at table 7 and ordered a double espresso. I'd been working at Lucia's for 2 years, long enough to recognize the regulars, the tourists snapping photos of their carbonara, and the occasional businessman trying to impress a date with broken Italian. But this man, he didn't belong in our world of checkered tablecloths and Sinatra crooning from the kitchen radio. He belonged somewhere darker. Mia, Rosa hissed from behind the bar, her weathered hands gripping a wine glass so tight I thought it might shatter. Don't go over there. I glanced at her, confused. Rosa had worked here since before I was born. She'd seen everything. Drunks, fights, marriage proposals gone wrong. Nothing rattled her. Until now. It's just a customer, I whispered back, smoothing my apron. That's not just a customer. Her dark eyes were wide, urgent. That's Dante Caruso. The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? I was about to ask when Marco, our manager, appeared from the kitchen. His face had gone pale, his usual swagger replaced by something that looked uncomfortably like fear. I'll handle this table, he said quickly. But Marco's hands were shaking as he reached for a menu, and suddenly I understood. Whatever was happening at table 7 had nothing to do with pasta, and everything to do with power. And power, in this neighborhood, had a very specific name, Mafia. I've got it. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Marco's head snapped toward me. Mia, no. I said I've got it. I grabbed my notepad, ignoring the way my heart hammered against my ribs, and crossed the dining room. Up close, he was even more devastating. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved by Michelangelo, sharp jaw, full lips, eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my rent for a year, and when those eyes lifted to meet mine, I forgot how to breathe. Buonasera. My voice came out steadier than I felt. What can I get you? He studied me for a long moment, and I felt stripped bare under that gaze. Like he could see every secret I'd ever kept, every fear I'd ever hidden. You're new, he said finally. His voice was low, rough velvet wrapped around steel. 2 years isn't that new. One corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. In my world, 2 years is still a child learning to walk. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I clicked my pen instead. The risotto is excellent tonight. Or the ossobuco if you prefer. What do you recommend? He leaned back in his chair, still watching me with that unnerving intensity. Honestly, the kitchen closes in 30 minutes. I recommend you order quickly. His bodyguards tensed. One of them, built like a truck with a scar running down his cheek, moved forward, but Dante held up one hand. The man froze. She has spirit, Dante murmured, almost to himself. Then louder, risotto, and a bottle of the Barolo. I was turning away when I heard it. A whisper, so soft I almost missed it, coming from the man seated directly to Dante's right. Younger, nervous, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was speaking into his phone, his hand cupped around his mouth. Confermato. È qui. Procedi con il piano. Confirmed. He's here. Proceed with the plan. My blood went cold. I'd grown up in Little Italy, the daughter of immigrants who'd worked their fingers to the bone to give me a better life. I spoke Italian the way some people spoke prayers, fluently, instinctively, without thought. And I just heard this man, this trusted companion, confirm that something was about to happen. Something bad. I kept walking toward the kitchen, my mind racing. It wasn't my business. Dante Caruso was clearly a dangerous man, and whatever web of violence and betrayal he'd woven himself into had nothing to do with me. But then I remembered Rosa's face, Marco's shaking hands, and I thought about my father, who'd taught me that silence in the face of wrong was its own kind of evil. I changed direction. Excuse me. I stopped at their table again, my heart threatening to break through my chest. I'm sorry, but I need to speak with you, privately. Dante's eyes narrowed. I'm busy. I know what he just said. I switched to Italian, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess myself. So che ti ha tradito. So che sta arrivando qualcuno. Devi andartene, adesso. I know he betrayed you. I know someone's coming. You need to leave. Now. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Dante went absolutely still. The kind of stillness that predators have right before they strike. His hand moved, so fast I barely saw it, and suddenly there was a gun on the table, pointed not at me, but at the man beside him. Che cosa hai detto? Dante's voice was death itself. What did you say? The traitor's face drained of color. Boss, I don't know what His phone, I said quietly. Check his phone. One of the bodyguards lunged forward, yanking the phone from the man's hand. Seconds later, his expression went dark. He showed the screen to Dante. Whatever was there made Dante's jaw clench so hard I could see the muscle jump. Get her out of here, he said to the scarred bodyguard. Now, through the back. Wait, what? Now. The word was a whip crack. And then everything happened at once. The front door exploded inward. Men in black streamed through, armed, moving with military precision. Screams erupted from the other diners. Glass shattered. Rosa dove behind the bar. I felt hands on my arms, dragging me backward through the kitchen. Behind me, I heard gunfire, sharp, deafening, real. This was real. The last thing I saw before the door swung shut was Dante Caruso, standing in the center of the chaos with a gun in each hand and murder in his eyes. And somehow, impossibly, his gaze found mine across the carnage. In that split second, something passed between us. Recognition, connection, a promise, or maybe a threat. Then I was in the alley, gasping for air, and the scarred bodyguard was shoving me toward a black car that had appeared from nowhere. Get in, he growled. I'm not going anywhere with... The back door of the restaurant burst open. Dante emerged, blood on his suit, smoke still rising from his weapons. He looked like a god of war, beautiful and terrible. His eyes locked on mine. You just saved my life, he said, his voice carrying over the distant sirens, which means your life is now mine to protect. Get in the car, Mia. I hadn't told him my name. The car smelled like leather and gunpowder. I sat rigid in the back seat, my hands clenched in my lap, watching the city blur past through tinted windows. Dante sat across from me, silent, his expression unreadable. He'd removed his jacket, ruined by blood, though I couldn't tell if it was his, and rolled up his sleeves. Even in the dim light, I could see the corded muscles of his forearms. The scars that spoke of violence survived. Where are you taking me? My voice sounded small, foreign. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. His dark eyes flicked to mine. It's the only answer you're getting. Anger flared in my chest, hot and bright, burning through the shock. You can't just kidnap me. I have a life, a job. People who'll notice I'm gone. Your restaurant is currently a crime scene. You have no job, and anyone who might notice will be told you're staying with family out of state until the situation is resolved. He said it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. You don't have the right. I have every right. He leaned forward, and the full force of his presence hit me like a physical thing. You saw their faces, Mia. You heard what Lorenzo said. You think they'll just forget about you? You're a witness, a liability. And in my world, liabilities don't live long. The truth of it settled over me like ice water. So what am I? I whispered. Your prisoner? Something flickered across his face. Too fast to read. You're under my protection. There's a difference. Is there? He didn't answer. The car turned through iron gates that opened silently, gliding up a long driveway lined with perfectly manicured hedges. And then I saw it. A mansion that looked like it had been transplanted from a Tuscan hillside. All limestone and arched windows, with climbing roses and terraced gardens that probably required a full-time staff. This isn't real, I breathed. It's very real. Dante stepped out of the car, then offered me his hand. I ignored it and climbed out myself, immediately regretting it when my knees nearly gave out. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and hollow. His hand caught my elbow, steadying me. Easy. Don't touch me. He released me immediately, but his eyes held something I couldn't name. Come inside. The interior was even more stunning. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers, sweeping staircases and artwork that belonged in museums. But it felt cold, empty, like a beautiful tomb. A woman appeared from a side hallway, middle-aged and efficient-looking. Mr. Caruso, your room is prepared. Shall I show the young lady to the guest suite? The East Wing, Dante said. Make sure she has everything she needs. Of course. I followed the woman. She introduced herself as Elena, up a winding staircase and down a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. She opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. 4-poster bed, walk-in closet, a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. There are clothes in your size in the wardrobe, Elena said. Mr. Caruso anticipated you might need them. How did he? I stopped. Stupid question. Men like Dante Caruso knew everything. Dinner will be served in an hour. He requests your presence, and if I refuse? Elena's expression softened slightly. Then he will have food sent to your room. But he prefers not to dine alone. She left me standing there, alone in a stranger's house, wearing clothes that smelled like smoke and fear. I should have been terrified, and I was, but underneath the terror was something else. Something dangerous. Curiosity. Dinner was served in a dining room that could have seated 30, but held only 2. I'd showered and changed into one of the dresses from the wardrobe. Simple. Black. Perfectly fitted. It should have felt wrong, wearing clothes he'd chosen for me, but they felt like armor. Dante was already seated when I entered, a glass of red wine in his hand. He'd changed too into a fresh shirt, charcoal gray and open at the collar. Without the jacket and tie, he looked almost human. Almost. Sit, he said. I remained standing. I want answers, and you'll get them. After you eat. You've had a traumatic evening. Low blood sugar won't help. Stop acting like you care about my well-being. You kidnapped me. I saved your life. By taking away my freedom. He set down his glass with deliberate precision. Your freedom was forfeit the moment you opened your mouth in that restaurant. Do you understand what you interrupted? That was a $50 million setup. Arms deal. Territory negotiation. All orchestrated by Lorenzo, my most trusted capo, who apparently decided betrayal paid better than loyalty. His voice was cold, clinical. But his hands were clenched on the armrests. The people he was selling me out to, Dante continued. The Rossi family. They've wanted my territory for years. Tonight was supposed to be my execution. Instead, thanks to you, 6 of their men are dead, and Lorenzo is currently answering some very pointed questions in my wine cellar. I felt sick. What will you do to him? What do you think? I think you're going to kill him. Then you're learning fast. He stood, moving around the table with that dangerous grace. I don't kill lightly, Mia, but I kill when necessary. And betrayal? That's always necessary. He was close now. Too close. I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, and feel the heat radiating from his body. Why did you do it? He asked softly. Why warn me? Because it was the right thing to do. The right thing. He laughed, a sound without humor. You saved a monster tonight. You know that, don't you? I'm not a good man. I've done things that would make you run screaming. Then let me run. I can't. Why not? His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw. I should have pulled away, should have slapped him, screamed something. Instead, I held perfectly still. Because the moment you spoke, he whispered, you became mine to protect, and I protect what's mine. Always. The door burst open. The scarred bodyguard, I'd learned his name was Marco, stood there, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. Lorenzo's dead. Dante went rigid. I gave explicit orders, wasn't us. Someone got to him, poison, and they left a message. What message? Marco's eyes cut to me, then back to Dante. They know about the girl. The silence that followed was suffocating. Dante's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The man who'd been almost gentle moments before vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal. He turned to Marco, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. Lock down the estate. Triple the perimeter guards. No one in or out without my explicit authorization. Already done, boss. And the message? Marco hesitated, his gaze flicking to me again. Whatever he was about to say, he didn't want to say it in front of me. Say it, Dante commanded. They carved it into his chest. Marco's jaw clenched. Said they're coming for her. That the girl who speaks in tongues belongs to them now. My blood turned to ice. Girl who speaks in tongues? I heard myself ask. What does that mean? Neither man answered me. Dante's expression had gone absolutely rigid, his mind clearly racing through possibilities, threats, contingencies. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly calm. Take her to the safe room. Now. Wait. I started to protest. But Marco's hand was already on my arm, firm but not painful, guiding me toward the door. It's for your protection, he said quietly. I don't need... Mia. Dante's voice stopped me mid-sentence. I turned back to find him watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Trust me. Just for tonight. Trust me. And God help me. Some insane part of me did. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like. A reinforced chamber deep in the basement, all concrete walls and steel doors. But someone had made an effort to make it less like a prison. There was a proper bed, a bathroom, even a small shelf of books. I'll be right outside, Marco said. You're safe here, am I? I wrapped my arms around myself. Because it sounds like I'm the reason a man died tonight. Lorenzo died because he betrayed the family. What happened to him would have happened regardless. Marco's scarred face softened slightly. But the Rossis knowing about you? That's complicated. Why? Because you're not just a witness anymore. You're leverage. A way to get to the boss. He barely knows me. Marco's expression suggested I was being deliberately naive. He moved you into his home, under his personal protection. In our world, that's everything. He left before I could respond, the door sealing shut with a heavy thunk. I sat on the bed, my mind spinning. This couldn't be my life. Just this morning, my biggest concern had been whether Rosa would let me switch shifts so I could make my night class. I was a graduate student, for God's sake. I studied Renaissance literature. I had no business being caught in the crossfire of a Mafia war, but I'd spoken up. I'd chosen to warn him, and now I was here. Hours passed. I tried to read, but the words swam on the page. Tried to sleep, but every sound made me jump. Finally, around 2 a.m, I heard the locks disengage. Dante stepped inside, still wearing his blood-free shirt from dinner but looking exhausted. Haunted, even. It's handled, he said quietly. For now. What does that mean? He crossed to the bed and sat down heavily beside me, close enough that our shoulders nearly touched. The casual intimacy of it should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt inevitable. It means I've sent messages to the Rossi family, made it clear that harming you would be declaring open war. They're not ready for that. Not yet. But they will be eventually. Eventually. He nodded. Which means you can't leave here. Not until this is resolved. And how long will that take? I don't know. The honesty in his voice surprised me. I'd expected him to lie, to placate me with false promises. Instead, he was treating me like an equal, like someone who deserved the truth. Tell me something, I said quietly. Why did Lorenzo betray you? What makes a man throw away loyalty for money? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw in a way I hadn't heard before. Lorenzo's daughter needed surgery. Experimental treatment in Switzerland. $3 million. He rubbed his face. I offered to pay for it. Told him family takes care of family. But he was too proud. Too ashamed to accept what he saw as charity. So he went to the Rossis instead. Sold me out for enough money to save his child. My heart clenched. God, that's horrible. It's the business. Everyone has a price. Everyone has a weakness. He turned to look at me then, and the weight of his gaze made me feel exposed. Vulnerable. What's yours, Mia? I don't have one. Everyone does. Then I haven't found it yet. Liar. The word was soft, almost affectionate. His hand came up, fingers brushing my hair back from my face. Your weakness is the same as mine. You can't stand by and watch injustice happen. even when it's safer to look away. How do you know that? Because you warned a stranger in a restaurant instead of saving yourself. Because you're angry at me for protecting you. Because right now you're not asking about your own safety. You're asking about why a man betrayed me. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You have a hero complex, sweetheart. And in my world, that's the most dangerous weakness of all. I should have pulled away. Should have told him to leave. Instead, I leaned into his touch. What's your weakness? I whispered. His eyes dropped to my lips. I'm beginning to think it might be you. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning, with possibility, with danger. Don't, I breathed. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because you're a mobster, a killer. And I'm just a waitress who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're not just anything. His voice was fierce now, urgent. You saved my life. You speak languages you shouldn't speak. You see things no one else sees. The lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed us. For 3 heartbeats, nothing. Then Dante was moving, his hand finding mine in the blackness. Stay behind me. Don't make a sound. What's happening? Someone cut the power. And then, from somewhere above, I heard it. Gunfire. Screaming. The sound of doors being blown open. They'd found us. Dante moved through the darkness like he was born to it. His hand stayed locked around mine, pulling me behind him as we navigated the pitch-black corridors of the basement. My heart hammered so hard I was sure whoever was upstairs could hear it. The gunfire had stopped, replaced by something worse. Silence, the kind that meant people were hunting. How many? I whispered, barely audible. Too many. His voice was grim. They knew about the safe room, knew about the backup generators. This was planned. Inside job? Has to be. We reached a junction in the corridor, and Dante paused, listening. I could feel the tension radiating from his body, coiled and ready to spring. Above us, floorboards creaked. Someone was walking slowly, methodically, searching each room, looking for me. The thought made my stomach turn. Dante's hand tightened on mine briefly, a silent reassurance. Then he was moving again, pulling me down a narrower passage I hadn't noticed before. The walls pressed close, almost suffocating, and the air smelled of damp stone and earth. Where are we going? Tunnel. Leads to the old wine cellar on the east side of the property. From there we can reach the garage. You have an escape tunnel? I have 3. His voice held a dark humor. You don't survive in this business by having only one exit. We emerged into a wider space. I could feel the shift in air pressure, and Dante finally released my hand. I heard him moving, the scrape of metal on stone, and then a faint blue glow illuminated his face. He'd activated some kind of emergency light stick. In the dim glow, I could see we were in an old stone cellar lined with wine racks. Dust motes danced in the thin light, and blood, dried and dark, stained the floor in one corner. I didn't ask whose blood it was. Dante moved to a heavy wooden cabinet and pulled it aside, revealing a door. But before he could open it, voices echoed down the tunnel we just left. Devono essere qui. They must be here. Dante froze. His expression went absolutely cold, and when he looked at me, I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run ice cold. When I tell you to run, he said quietly, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. The garage is through that door, down the stairs, and to your left. Keys are in the black Mercedes. Drive straight to the address I'm about to give you. I'm not leaving you. You are. He pressed something into my hand. A cell phone. There's one number programmed. Call it when you're safe. Someone will come for you. Dante. Mia. He cupped my face in his hands, and the gentleness of the gesture contrasted so sharply with the violence about to unfold that I felt tears prick my eyes. You gave me my life in that restaurant. Let me give you yours now. This isn't... The door at the far end of the tunnel exploded inward. 3 men poured through, guns raised, flashlights cutting through the darkness. They saw us immediately. Eccoli. Dante moved. I'd never seen anyone move like that. One moment he was beside me, the next he was on them. A whirlwind of controlled violence. His first strike broke the lead man's wrist before he could fire. The gun clattered to the floor, and Dante had it in his hand, firing twice. 2 bodies dropped. The third man got off a shot, The bullet caught Dante in the shoulder, spinning him back. He didn't make a sound, just adjusted his aim and fired again. The man went down. "Run!" Dante's voice was a roar. "Now!" I ran. Behind me, I heard more men coming. Heard Dante's gun firing, the wet sounds of impact, his grunts of effort and pain. I wanted to turn back, wanted to help, but my legs carried me forward on autopilot, through the door. Down the stairs. Left turn into... The garage was enormous, filled with luxury cars that probably cost more than most houses. But I saw the black Mercedes immediately, right where he said it would be. I fumbled for the door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the handle. The keys were in the ignition. I turned the engine over, and it roared to life. The garage door began to open automatically, revealing the dark driveway beyond. I should have gone, should have followed his orders. Instead, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Dante stagger into the garage, blood streaming from his shoulder, 3 more men right behind him. He saw the car. "Saw me still sitting there. Go," he shouted. I put the car in reverse. The Mercedes shot backward, tires screaming, and I spun the wheel hard. The car slewed around, and I aimed directly at the men pursuing Dante. Their eyes went wide. They tried to dive out of the way, too slow. I hit 2 of them straight on, the impact jarring through my bones. The third managed to roll clear, but Dante was already on him. I didn't watch what happened next. The passenger door flew open, and Dante threw himself inside, blood-soaked and breathing hard. "Drive," he gasped. I drove. We exploded out of the garage and down the driveway, headlights cutting through the darkness. Behind us, the mansion was ablaze with spotlights, figures running everywhere. Gunfire sparked against the car's rear panel, but the Mercedes was apparently armored. The bullets ricocheted harmlessly. We crashed through the front gates, thankfully already open, probably from the initial breach, and hit the main road doing 90. "Are you insane?" Dante's voice was strained with pain and something else, disbelief. "I told you to run." "You're welcome. You could have been killed. So could you." He stared at me, this powerful, dangerous man who commanded respect and fear, and suddenly he started laughing. Actual, genuine laughter that sounded rusty, like he'd forgotten how. "You ran me over," he said, still laughing. "You actually ran over my enemies with my own car." I clipped them. "There's a difference. Remind me never to piss you off." His laughter faded as a wave of pain crossed his face. I glanced over and saw the blood spreading across his shoulder, soaking his shirt. "How bad is it?" "I'll live. Just drive to the address. We need to get somewhere safe before..." The cell phone in the cup holder rang. We both stared at it. Dante reached for it with his good hand, wincing, and answered. "What?" His voice was cold steel. I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but I watched Dante's expression shift from anger to disbelief, to something that looked like anguish. "When?" he asked quietly. A pause. "I understand." He ended the call and sat there, suddenly looking older. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with the gunshot wound. "What happened?" I asked. He turned to look at me, and the expression in his eyes made my breath catch. "That was my brother," he said quietly. "He wanted me to know that my mother is in the hospital. Someone sent her a package, a photo of you and me. She had a heart attack when she opened it." My hands tightened on the wheel. "What? Why would..." "Because the photo came with a note." His voice was hollow. It said, "Your son's new weakness. Enjoy watching her die." The safe house was a 40-minute drive outside the city, an industrial warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside but concealed, a fully equipped medical facility within Dante's. Hand pressed against his wounded shoulder as we pulled into the loading dock. He'd been silent for the entire drive, his jaw clenched against pain and whatever storm was raging inside his head. I'd tried to speak twice, but the words died in my throat. What could I possibly say? "I'm sorry your mother had a heart attack because of me. I'm sorry I'm the weakness your enemies are using against you. I'm sorry I saved your life." A man was waiting as we entered. Middle-aged, gray-haired, with the efficient manner of someone who'd patched up bullet wounds more times than he could count. He took one look at Dante and gestured toward a steel table. "Sit. You're leaving a blood trail. I've had worse." "That's not reassuring." The doctor, I assumed he was a doctor, turned to me. "You hurt?" No, then make yourself useful. Clean water, first drawer, second cabinet from the left. I moved on autopilot, grateful for something to do. Behind me, I heard Dante's sharp intake of breath as the doctor cut away his shirt and began examining the wound. Through and through. You're lucky. Another inch to the right, and it would have hit the subclavian artery. The sound of instruments clinking. This is going to hurt. It already hurts. It's going to hurt more. I turned back with the water to find the doctor threading a needle. Dante's eyes found mine across the room, and something in his gaze made me move closer despite every instinct screaming at me to keep my distance. Talk to me, he said quietly. It helps. About what? Anything. Tell me about you. Who is Mia Santoro really? The doctor began stitching. Dante's hand gripped the edge of the table, knuckles going white, but his eyes never left my face. I'm nobody, I said. Just a graduate student trying to finish my thesis. On what? Renaissance poetry, Petrarch's influence on courtly love literature. Beautiful and brilliant. His voice was strained. Dangerous combination. I'm not dangerous. You drove a car into armed men for me. You're dangerous. The doctor pulled another stitch tight, and Dante's jaw clenched. Keep talking. My parents emigrated from Naples when I was 5. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. They wanted me to have opportunities they never had. I moved closer, close enough to see the sweat beading on his forehead. I was supposed to become a teacher. Safe, respectable. Instead, I'm standing in an underground medical facility watching a mobster get stitched up. Life rarely goes according to plan. Clearly. The doctor finished and began bandaging the wound. You'll need antibiotics and rest. Actual rest, not your version of it. Fine. I mean it, Dante, you've lost blood. You're running on adrenaline and stubborn pride. Eventually, both will run out. Dante stood, swaying slightly, and immediately reached for me. I caught his arm, steadying him, and felt the heat of his skin through my shirt. Thank you, Paolo, Dante said to the doctor. The usual fee. Already transferred. Paolo packed his instruments efficiently. There's a bedroom upstairs. Clean sheets. Food in the fridge. Don't do anything stupid for at least 6 hours. He left us alone. The silence stretched, heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Dante turned to me, and the expression on his face was so raw it made my chest ache. I need to tell you something, he said quietly, and you're not going to like it. What? When I brought you to my home, I told myself it was about protection, about keeping you safe until the threat passed. He laughed bitterly. I was lying to myself. I don't understand. The moment you spoke Italian in that restaurant, warning me about Lorenzo's betrayal, I should have been focused on the danger. The setup, the attack. Instead, all I could think about was your voice, the way you pronounced each word like it was sacred, the courage it took to speak up when you could have stayed silent. He took a step closer, and I felt the air between us charge with something electric. I've spent 20 years building walls around myself, he continued. 20 years learning not to feel, not to trust, not to want anything beyond power and control. And then you appeared, this impossible woman with fire in her eyes, and all those walls started crumbling. Dante, you asked what my weakness was, earlier tonight, in the safe room. His hand came up, cupping my cheek with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was. It's you, Mia, you're my weakness. And that makes you the most dangerous person in my world. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him that this was insane, that we were strangers, that everything about this situation was wrong. Instead, I leaned into his touch. I'm scared, I whispered. Good. You should be. I'm a monster, remember? Are you? I looked up at him, this man who'd killed to protect me, who'd risked everything to keep me safe, whose eyes held such carefully hidden pain. Because right now, you just seem like a man who's been hurt too many times and learned to hide it behind power. Something broke in his expression. Before I could react, he'd pulled me against him, his good arm wrapping around my waist, his forehead resting against mine. You make me want things I can't have, he breathed. A normal life, peace, you. You have me. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. I'm here, aren't I? For now, but eventually you'll realize what I really am, what I'm capable of, and you'll run. Everyone does. I stayed in that garage, I reminded him. When I should have run. I stayed. That was survival instinct, was it? I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Or was it something else? The question hung between us, unanswerable and terrifying. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. Heat pooled low in my stomach. This was madness. This was dangerous. This was... His phone rang, shattering the moment. Dante pulled away, his expression closing off as he answered. What? I watched his face change as he listened. Anger, fear, determination. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at me, and I knew whatever he was about to say would change everything. My mother is awake, and she's asking to meet the girl in the photo. What? Why? Because before she collapsed, she said something to my brother. Dante's voice was hollow. She said, "The prophecy has finally come true. The girl who speaks in tongues will either save him or destroy him." My blood went cold. What prophecy? That's what we're going to find out. The hospital was a fortress. Not in the architectural sense, though the private medical facility certainly looked expensive enough, but in the human sense. Men in dark suits lined every corridor, their eyes tracking our movement with predatory awareness. These weren't rent-a-cops or regular security. These were soldiers, Dante's soldiers. His hand rested at the small of my back as we walked, a gesture that was both possessive and protective. I'd changed into fresh clothes from the safe house, simple jeans and a black sweater that somehow still managed to fit perfectly. How many contingency plans did this man have? How many safe houses with wardrobes stocked in my size? How is your mother? I asked quietly as we entered the elevator. Stable. According to the doctors, the heart attack was relatively minor, stress-induced, but at her age... His jaw tightened. She shouldn't have been exposed to this, to any of this. I'm sorry. You didn't send the photograph. But I'm in it. He didn't argue with that. Couldn't really, because I was right. I'd become the weapon his enemies were using against him, the weakness they'd been searching for. And now his mother was collateral damage. The elevator doors opened onto the private floor. More guards, a nurse who looked like she'd been selected more for her ability to keep secrets than her medical expertise. She led us down a hushed corridor to a corner suite. 10 minutes, she said firmly. Doctor's orders. She needs rest. Dante nodded, then turned to me. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain. Vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with physical wounds. My mother is complicated, he said quietly. She knows what I am, what I do, but she still sees me as her son, her little boy. It kills her, I think. Loving someone she knows is damned. You're not damned, aren't I? His smile was bitter. 23 confirmed kills, Mia. That's just the ones I pulled the trigger on personally. If we count orders given, decisions made, lives destroyed. He shook his head. There's not enough prayer in the world to wash away that much blood. Then why do it? Because my father built an empire and someone had to inherit it. Someone had to keep the family safe. And I was the oldest, the strongest, the one willing to become a monster so my brothers and sisters didn't have to. Before I could respond, the door opened. The woman in the bed was smaller than I'd imagined. Fragile, with silver hair and dark eyes that held the same intensity as her son's. Despite the hospital gown and IV lines, she had an unmistakable dignity. A steel core wrapped in aged velvet. Dante. Her voice was accented, warm despite the circumstances. Then her gaze shifted to me, and I felt stripped bare under that maternal scrutiny. And this must be her. Mama, this is Mia Santoro. Mia, my mother, Isabella Caruso. Sit, child. Isabella gestured to the chair beside her bed. Let me look at you. I sat, hyper-aware of Dante hovering behind me like an anxious shadow. Isabella reached out and took my hand in hers, surprisingly strong for someone who just had a heart attack. You have kind eyes, she said finally. But sad, like you've seen too much suffering for one so young. I'm okay. No, you're not, but you will be. She squeezed my hand. Tell me, Mia, do you know why you're here? Why those animals sent me your photograph? To hurt Dante? To show him they know about me? And do you know why knowing about you hurts him? I glanced back at Dante. He stood rigid, his expression unreadable. Because I'm a liability. A witness to his business. Is that what you think? Isabella made a dismissive sound. My son has had dozens of witnesses over the years. Some he's silenced. Others he's simply paid off or frightened into submission. He's never brought any of them home. Never given them his protection. Never looked at them the way he looks at you. Heat crept up my neck. Mrs. Caruso, call me Isabella. And before my son interrupts, as I can see he's about to, let me tell you something. She fixed me with that intense gaze. 35 years ago, before Dante was born, I visited a woman in Napoli. A seer, una strega some called her. A witch. I was young, newly married to a man whose business I didn't fully understand. I wanted to know what future awaited me. Dante moved closer. Mama, this isn't necessary. Hush, let me speak. Isabella's grip on my hand tightened. The woman told me many things. Some came true, some didn't. But one prophecy stayed with me all these years. She said that my firstborn son would become a king of shadows. Powerful, feared, but cursed to never know true peace. She said darkness would claim him completely, unless he met a woman who spoke in tongues. A woman whose voice would either redeem him or damn him forever. The room fell silent. I dismissed it as nonsense, Isabella continued. Romantic foolishness. But then Dante grew up and became exactly what she predicted, a king of shadows. And I watched the light die in his eyes year after year, until I stopped recognizing my own son. Tears gathered in her eyes. And then yesterday, my youngest boy, Pietro, he calls me, excited, says Dante has brought a woman to his home. An American girl who speaks perfect Italian, who warned him about betrayal, who saved his life. She looked up at Dante. When did you realize she could speak Italian? In the restaurant. She overheard Lorenzo's phone call and understood every word. And what did you feel in that moment? Dante was quiet for a long time, like I'd been sleepwalking my entire life and suddenly woke up. Isabella nodded, satisfied. The girl who speaks in tongues. After all these years she appeared. I found my voice finally. Mrs. Caruso, Isabella, I don't speak in tongues. I just speak Italian. My parents were from Naples. I grew up bilingual. There's nothing mystical about it, isn't there? She smiled. You understood betrayal when others didn't. You spoke truth when silence would have been easier. You saw my son, truly saw him, when everyone else sees only a monster. Those are rare gifts, child. Divine, perhaps, or coincidental, perhaps. But I didn't have a heart attack because I'm old and weak. I had a heart attack because I saw that photograph and understood, finally understood, that the prophecy was real, and that my son had found his salvation. Her voice dropped, or his destruction. The seer was clear on that point. You are his crossroads, Mia Santoro. The choice that will define everything. That's not fair, I whispered. I didn't ask for that responsibility. No one asks for destiny. It simply arrives. Isabella released my hand and looked at Dante. Come here, mio figlio. Dante knelt beside the bed, and suddenly he wasn't a feared mafia boss. He was just a son worried about his mother. Isabella cupped his scarred face with both hands. I'm going to ask you something and I want the truth. Do you love this girl? Mama... The truth, Dante. He looked at me, and the expression in his eyes stole my breath. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just finally feeling something again, and I'm too broken to recognize what it is. All I know is that when I thought I might die in that restaurant, my last thought wasn't about my empire or my legacy. It was that I'd never learn her name. The words hung in the air, raw and honest. Isabella smiled, even as tears tracked down her cheeks. Then protect her, Dante. Not because she's a weakness. Not because she's a liability. Protect her because she reminds you that you're still human, that there's still something in you worth saving. A commotion erupted in the hallway. Shouts, running footsteps. Dante was on his feet instantly, his hand going to the gun I hadn't realized he was carrying. The door burst open, and one of his men stumbled in, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. Boss, they're here. The Rossis. They've breached the lobby. They're coming for her. Dante's expression went cold as death. How many? 20, maybe more. They're not trying to hide it anymore. Get my mother to the secure floor, now. Dante turned to me, and I saw the decision in his eyes before he spoke. Mia, there's an emergency stairwell at the end of the hall. It leads to the underground garage. Marco is waiting there. He'll get you out. What about you? I'll be right behind you. You're lying. His smile was sad. Yes, Dante, go, please. He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. I can't protect you and fight them at the same time. And I need you safe more than I need to survive. Does that scare you? Yes. Good. He leaned in, his forehead touching mine. Run, Mia. And don't look back this time. Then he kissed me, fierce and desperate and achingly brief, before pushing me toward the door. I ran. Behind me, I heard gunfire erupt. Heard men shouting, heard Isabella crying out for her son, and I knew with terrible certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The underground garage smelled like gasoline and blood. Marco was exactly where Dante said he'd be, leaning against a black SUV, his expression grim. When he saw me stumbling down the stairwell alone, confusion crossed his scarred face. Where's the boss? I couldn't finish the sentence. He stayed behind. Cristo. Marco's hand clenched into a fist. Get in the car. We can't just leave him. We're not leaving him. We're following orders. He yanked the door open. In, now! I climbed inside, my entire body shaking with adrenaline and fear. Marco got behind the wheel and the engine roared to life. As we pulled out of the parking space, I heard it. The distant sound of automatic weapons fire echoing through the concrete structure. Dante was up there, fighting, bleeding, possibly dying, and I was running away. Turn the car around, I said. No. Marco, the boss gave me one job. Keep you alive. I'm not failing him. He needs backup. He has 40 men up there. What he doesn't need is you getting caught in the crossfire. Marco's jaw was set, his hands tight on the wheel. You don't understand how this works. In our world, you don't win by being the bravest. You win by being the smartest, and the smartest thing right now is keeping you hidden. We crashed through the garage exit barrier and onto the street. It was after midnight, and the city felt like a different world. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that 20 floors above them, men were trying to kill each other. Where are we going? I asked. Safe house. Different one from before. The boss has contingencies for his contingencies. My phone buzzed. The one Dante had given me. I pulled it out, hands trembling, and saw a text from an unknown number. He's alive. For now, but not for long. Unless you want to make a trade. My blood turned to ice. Marco, stop the car. What? Stop the fucking car! He slammed the brakes, and we screeched to a halt at the side of the road. I showed him the message. His face went pale. It's a trap, he said immediately. Of course it's a trap. Then I'm not what? Going to let them kill him? Let them use me as bait while I hide in some safe house. I grabbed his arm. Marco, he went back to that hospital because of me. Because his mother was there because of me, because I'm the weapon they're using against him. How am I supposed to live with that? By staying alive. That's what he wants. What about what I want? The phone buzzed again. Another message. This time it was a video. I didn't want to watch it. Every instinct screamed at me to throw the phone out the window and pretend I'd never seen it. But my finger pressed play anyway. The video showed Dante, bound to a chair in what looked like an industrial warehouse. His face was bloodied, one eye swollen shut. Men surrounded him, their faces obscured by shadows. And standing directly in front of him was someone I recognized from the brief glimpse I'd gotten at the restaurant. A man in his 50s with silver-streaked hair and cold, calculating eyes, Antonio Rossi, the rival family's head, Dante Caruso. Antonio's voice was cultured, almost pleasant. The great king of shadows. Look at you now, bleeding, broken. All because of one little waitress who speaks Italian. Dante lifted his head. Even through the blood and pain, his expression was defiant. Touch her, and I'll burn your entire family to ash. Brave words from a man in chains. Antonio circled him slowly. But here's the problem, Dante. You're not in a position to make threats. Your men are scattered. Your allies are reconsidering their loyalties. Your mother is hospitalized. And the girl? He leaned in close. The girl is terrified and alone. How long do you think it will take us to find her? You won't. We already have. Antonio held up a phone, showing what looked like a tracking app. A red dot pulsed on a map of the city. Your faithful Marco is very predictable. He's taking her to your Riverside safe house. We'll have her within the hour. Dante's expression broke, just for a second, and I saw raw terror flash across his face. So here's my offer, Antonio continued. You give us the East Side territories. You give us access to your shipping routes. You give us everything we've been trying to take by force. And in exchange, we let the girl live. We let your family live. You'll lose your empire, but you'll keep what matters. Isn't that worth it? And if I refuse, then we kill her slowly. We make you watch. And when we're done with her, we move on to your brothers, your sisters, your mother. We'll dismantle everything you've built, Dante. Everyone you've ever loved will suffer, all because you were too proud to surrender. The video ended. I sat there staring at the blank screen, my mind racing. They'd tracked us. They knew where we were going. And they had Dante, the man who'd saved my life, protected me, who'd looked at me like I was something precious and rare instead of just a liability. The man who'd kissed me like he was drowning and I was air. Marco's voice broke through my thoughts. We need to move, now. If they know about Riverside, we'll go to the harbor safe house instead. I'll call for backup and— No. What? I looked at him, and I knew what I had to do. What I'd probably known since the moment Dante pushed me toward that stairwell. Take me to them. Are you insane? Probably. But I'm also the only thing they want. As long as I'm free, they'll keep hurting him. Keep threatening his family. But if I turn myself in, you'll be dead within an hour. Maybe, or maybe I can buy Dante enough time to regroup. To plan, to survive. I met his eyes. He gave up everything to protect me, Marco. Let me do the same for him. He'll kill me if I let you do this. He'll kill you if you don't, and he dies because of it. Marco stared at me for a long moment, conflict written across his scarred face. Finally, he slumped back in his seat. You're as crazy as he is. Is that a yes? It's a, I'm going to call for backup and pray this doesn't end with both of you dead. He grabbed his phone, finger hovering over a contact. But if we're doing this, we're doing it smart. Not walking into an ambush blind. What do you have in mind? His expression turned predatory. The Rossis think they're the only ones who can set a trap. Time to show them they're wrong. 20 minutes later, I stood outside the abandoned textile factory on the waterfront. My hands raised above my head. The building loomed before me. All broken windows and crumbling brick. The perfect place for violence to unfold unseen. Marco was somewhere in the shadows with the backup he'd called. How much backup? I didn't know. Enough, he'd promised. Enough to get Dante out alive, assuming this worked, assuming I didn't get killed first. I'm here. I called out into the darkness. I'm here for Dante Caruso. Let him go! For a moment, nothing. Then floodlights blazed to life, blinding me. I heard footsteps, multiple sets, and then rough hands grabbed my arms, yanking them behind my back. Zip ties bit into my wrists. Well, Antonio Rossi's voice, amused and dark. The girl who speaks in tongues. You're braver than I expected, or more foolish. I haven't decided which yet. Where is he? Eager to see your monster? How romantic. Antonio grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Up close, he smelled like expensive cologne and violence. You really love him, don't you? After everything he is, everything he's done. I don't have to love him to know you're worse. His hand cracked across my face, sharp, vicious. My head snapped to the side, pain exploding across my cheek. Blood filled my mouth. Careful, girl. You're not in a position to insult me. Neither are you. I spit blood at his feet. If I'm so valuable, why risk damaging the merchandise? He laughed. Oh, I like you. Dante always did have excellent taste. He gestured, and his men dragged me forward into the factory. Inside was worse than outside. Industrial equipment rusted into dangerous shapes. Water dripped from unseen leaks. And in the center of the cavernous space, still tied to a chair, was Dante. Our eyes met across the distance, and I saw everything in his face. Fury, terror, something that might have been love. Mia, no, he breathed. What did you do? What you would have done, I said simply. I made a choice. Antonio clapped his hands together, delighted. Isn't this touching? The monster and his maiden. A modern fairy tale. Shall we see how it ends? They tied me to a chair facing Dante, close enough that our knees almost touched but too far to reach each other. The position was deliberate, designed to torture us both with proximity and helplessness. Now then, Antonio said, pacing between us like a director setting up a scene. Let's discuss terms. Dante, you give me the territories, the routes, and the distribution networks. In exchange, I'll kill you both quickly, painless, almost merciful. And if I refuse? Dante's voice was rough, strained. Then I get creative. The girl dies slowly while you watch. After that, he shrugged. Your family? Your businesses. Everything you've built. I'll dismantle it piece by piece. Your legacy will be nothing but blood and ash. You'll never hold the territory, Dante said. My people won't work for you. They will when they see what happens to those who don't. Antonio pulled out a knife. Long, serrated, designed for maximum damage. He ran the blade along my collarbone, not cutting but promising. Last chance, Dante. Save her. Save your empire. Or watch everything burn. I felt the cold metal against my skin and forced myself not to flinch, not to show fear. If I was going to die, I'd do it with dignity. Dante's eyes were locked on that knife. On me. I could see the war raging inside him, every instinct screaming to give Antonio what he wanted, to save me at any cost. But I also saw something else. The calculating intelligence that had kept him alive this long. He was stalling. Buying time for what? Before I answer, Dante said carefully, I want to know one thing. How did you know about Mia? How did you get that photograph? Antonio smiled. Does it matter? Humor a dying man. Very well. Your dear cousin, Luca, has been on my payroll for 6 months. He's been feeding me information about your movements, your weaknesses, your safe houses. When you brought the girl home, he immediately reported it. We knew we'd finally found your pressure point. I saw Dante's expression shudder. Betrayal layering over betrayal. His own blood turning against him. Luca, he said quietly. I should have seen it. You should have. But love makes us blind, doesn't it? Family loyalty. Such a charming weakness. Antonio pressed the knife a little harder against my skin. A thin line of blood welled up. Now, your answer. Do you surrender or does she start losing pieces? Dante looked at me. Really looked at me. And in that moment, I understood. He wasn't going to surrender. He was going to let Antonio hurt me rather than give up everything he'd built. It should have terrified me. Should have made me hate him. Instead, I felt proud. Do it, I said quietly. Dante's eyes widened. Mia, don't give him what he wants. Don't destroy everything you are because of me. I held his gaze. I made my choice when I came here. Live with it. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand perfectly. You're a king. Kings don't kneel. I smiled, even though my face hurt, even though I could feel Antonio's knife biting deeper. So don't you dare kneel for me. Something broke in Dante's expression. Anguish and admiration and desperate love all tangled together. You're remarkable, he whispered. I know. Antonio's hand tightened on the knife. How touching. But unfortunately, the explosion ripped through the east wall. The blast threw everyone sideways. Antonio stumbling back, his men hitting the ground, debris raining down like hail. Through the smoke and chaos, I saw figures pouring through the hole in the wall. Dante's men, dozens of them, armed to the teeth. Marco led the charge, his face a mask of cold fury. Get the boss, he roared. And the girl. Gunfire erupted. Antonio's men scrambled for cover, returning fire, and suddenly the factory was a war zone. I yanked at my restraints, desperate to get free, but the zip ties held firm. Beside me, Dante was doing the same, his face contorted with effort despite his injuries. Mia, someone appeared beside me, a woman I didn't recognize, with short dark hair and deadly eyes. She cut my restraints in one smooth motion. Stay low. She moved to Dante next, freeing him, and he immediately lunged for me. His hands cupped my face, checking for injuries, his eyes wild with adrenaline and fear. Are you hurt? Did he? I'm fine. We need to move. Marco appeared, laying down covering fire. They're regrouping! Dante grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the exit. Bullets whined past us, sparking off metal equipment. Someone screamed. Bodies fell. The beautiful woman who'd cut me free took point. her movements fluid and lethal as she cleared a path. We burst out of the factory and into the night air. The waterfront stretched before us. Dark water, distant lights, the promise of escape. But Antonio Rossi wasn't done. He emerged from the smoke with a gun raised, blood streaming down his face from a gash on his forehead. His eyes were wild, all pretense of civility gone. "You don't get to walk away," he screamed. "Neither of you." The gun swung toward me. Everything slowed down. I saw Antonio's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the barrel align with my chest, saw death approaching with crystalline clarity. And then Dante was there. He shoved me sideways, his body moving between me and the gun. The shot rang out, impossibly loud, and Dante jerked backward. Time stopped. Dante looked down at his chest, at the blood blooming across his shirt, then back up at me. His expression was almost surprised, like he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. "No," I heard myself say. "No, no, no." He collapsed. I caught him, or tried to, but his weight drove us both to the ground. His blood was hot against my hands, too much blood coating my fingers, my clothes. "Dante." I pressed my hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Dante, stay with me." His eyes were unfocused, but he found my face. His hand came up, touching my cheek with trembling fingers. "Worth it," he whispered. "You were worth it. Don't you dare. Don't you dare die on me." Around us, the fighting continued. Marco put 3 bullets in Antonio, chest, head, and the rival boss went down hard. The woman with short hair was barking orders, organizing a retreat. But all I could see was Dante, bleeding out of my arms. "Medic," I screamed. "Someone get Paolo, now." Dante's hand fell away from my face. His eyes started to close. "No." I shook him. "Open your eyes. Look at me, Dante." His lips moved. I leaned closer, desperate to hear. "Love you," he breathed. So quiet I almost missed it. Should have said it before. Then his eyes closed completely, and my world ended. The operating room at the safe house was chaos. Paolo worked with brutal efficiency, his hands moving faster than I'd ever seen, barking orders at 2 assistants who appeared from somewhere. They'd carried Dante in on a stretcher, his skin already going pale from blood loss. I'd refused to let go of his hand until Marco physically pulled me away. "You can't be in here," the scarred bodyguard said, not unkindly. "Let Paolo work. He's dying, and standing there watching won't help him." Marco's grip was firm. "Come on, there's a room where you can clean up." I looked down at myself, at my hands stained dark with Dante's blood, at my clothes soaked through. I felt like I was wearing his death. Marco led me to a bathroom and left me there. I stumbled to the sink and turned on the water, watching it run red as I scrubbed at my hands. But the blood kept coming, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was gone and I just couldn't stop seeing it. A sob tore from my throat. I'd done this. I'd turned myself in to save him, and instead, I'd gotten him killed. The prophecy Isabella had mentioned came rushing back. The girl who speaks in tongues will either save him or destroy him. I'd destroyed him. The bathroom door opened. The woman with short hair stood there, the one who'd cut me free. Up close, I could see she was older than I'd thought, maybe mid-30s, with a scar running along her jaw. "You need to change," she said, holding out fresh clothes. "And eat something. You're in shock. You can, and you will, because if Dante survives this, the first thing he's going to want to see is you, and you need to be strong for that moment." She set the clothes on the counter. "I'm Sophia. I run intelligence for the Caruso family. Mia, I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are." Sophia leaned against the doorframe. "You're the girl who saved the boss twice. The one he went back into hell for. The one he took a bullet for. I didn't ask him to, doesn't matter. He did it anyway. That's who Dante is. When he cares about something, he's all in. No half measures. No regrets." Her expression softened slightly. "Change. I'll wait outside. We'll get coffee and you'll tell me everything that happened. Sometimes talking helps." She left me alone. I changed mechanically, pulling on clean jeans and a soft sweater that smelled like lavender detergent. When I emerged, Sophia was waiting with 2 steaming mugs. We sat in a stark living room. All leather furniture and empty walls, designed for function rather than comfort. "How long have you known Dante?" I asked, 8 years. He recruited me out of military intelligence when my cover got blown on a job in Syria. I owed him my life. Sophia took a sip of coffee. In all that time, I've never seen him like this. Reckless, emotional, willing to throw away strategic advantage for one person. Is that bad? It's dangerous. For him, for the family, for you. She studied me over her mug. But it's also human. Dante spent so long being the perfect soldier, the flawless leader, that he forgot he was a person. You reminded him. I didn't mean to. Best things never are. Sophia set down her mug. Listen, if he survives this, and Paolo is very good, so there's a chance, things are going to get complicated. The other families will see tonight as weakness. They'll test him, push boundaries, try to take territory while he's recovering. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to decide if you're in or out, because there's no middle ground anymore. You're either part of this world or you're not. And if you're in, you need to be ready for what that means. I don't understand. In our world, love is a weapon. The Rossis prove that tonight. They'll keep coming for you, keep using you against him, unless you become strong enough to be an asset instead of a liability. Sophia's eyes were intense. Can you do that? Can you become someone who stands beside him instead of behind him? Before I could answer, Marco appeared in the doorway. He's out of surgery, he said. Paolo says the next 12 hours are critical, but he's stable. For now. I was on my feet and moving before Marco finished speaking. Sophia grabbed my arm. Remember what I said. Decide who you want to be. Then she released me, and I was running down the hallway toward the room where they'd taken him. Dante looked like a corpse. All the color had drained from his skin, leaving him pale as marble. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped rhythmically, tracking heartbeat and oxygen levels. Paolo stood beside the bed making notes on a chart. He's strong, the doctor said when he saw me. The bullet missed his heart by 2 centimeters. Nicked a lung instead. I've repaired what I can, but he'll need real hospitalization soon. This isn't equipped for long-term intensive care. Can I... My voice broke. Can I stay with him? For a while. Talk to him. Sometimes unconscious patients respond to familiar voices. Paolo squeezed my shoulder gently. He fought hard to stay alive during surgery. Kept trying to wake up. Kept saying your name. He left me alone with Dante. I pulled a chair close to the bed and took his hand. The one not wrapped in medical tape and tubes. His fingers were cold. Lifeless. I squeezed gently, desperate for any response. Hey, I whispered. It's me, Mia. I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to wake up. Please. Because I have things to say to you. Important things, nothing. Just the steady beep of the heart monitor. I was so angry when you brought me to your house, I continued. Angry and scared and convinced you were just another monster using me for his own purposes. But you weren't. You gave me safety, protection. You looked at me like I mattered, like I was worth protecting. I felt tears building, fought them back. And then tonight, when Antonio had that knife against my skin, you were willing to let me get hurt rather than surrender everything you'd built. And I was proud of you. Isn't that insane? I was proud that you were strong enough to make the hard choice. That's when I knew. I leaned closer, my forehead almost touching his. I love you, Dante Caruso. I love your strength and your darkness and the broken pieces you try to hide. I love the way you protect your family and honor your word and hold yourself to impossible standards. I love that you're trying so hard to be a monster, but you keep failing because you're too human. A tear escaped, splashing onto his hand. So you need to wake up. Because I didn't get to say that while you were conscious, and you deserve to hear it. You deserve to know that someone sees you, really sees you, and loves you anyway. The heart monitor's rhythm stayed steady, unchanged. I sat there for hours talking to him, telling him about my childhood, my parents, my dreams of becoming a professor. Ridiculous, mundane details that had nothing to do with guns and territory and violence. Just life, the life I wanted to share with him. Somewhere around dawn, exhaustion finally claimed me. I laid my head on the edge of the bed, still holding his hand, and closed my eyes. I woke to someone touching my hair, gentle fingers running through the strands, barely a whisper of contact. I lifted my head slowly, afraid to hope. Dante's eyes were open, dark and pain-filled but unmistakably aware. He looked at me like a man seeing salvation after years in hell. "Mia." His voice was a ruined rasp. "You're here. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be? Safe, far away from me." His fingers trembled against my hair. "I heard you. Everything you said about loving me. You weren't supposed to be conscious for that. Best eavesdropping I've ever done." He managed the ghost of a smile. "Say it again. You're going to make me repeat it?" "I got shot. Indulge me." I laughed, a sound somewhere between joy and hysteria. "I love you, Dante Caruso. Even though you're impossible and dangerous and you got blood all over my favorite jeans. Those weren't your jeans. I bought you those jeans. Still counts." His hand moved from my hair to my face, cupping my cheek with heartbreaking tenderness. "I love you too. Have since that first moment in the restaurant when you looked at me like I was a person instead of a monster. I just didn't have the words for it until I thought I'd never see you again. Well, you're stuck with me now. Sophia says I need to decide if I'm in or out of your world. I choose in. Mia, don't argue. You're too weak to win." I leaned into his touch. "Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting shot again. Apparently, I'm the only one qualified. By running into danger yourself. By standing beside you. Like Sophia said, as an asset, not a liability. You were never a liability. Liar. But a sweet liar." I pressed a kiss to his palm. "Rest now. We'll figure out the details when you're not full of painkillers and surgical staples." His eyes were already closing, exhaustion pulling him under, but he held onto my hand like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to life. "Don't leave," he mumbled. "Never," I promised. And as I watched him drift back to sleep, I knew I meant it, whatever came next, whatever wars and betrayals and dangers awaited. We'd face them. Together, 3 months later, the Caruso estate had been rebuilt. Not the same as before. Dante had decided the old mansion held too many bad memories. Instead, he'd commissioned something new. A fortress disguised as a home, with state-of-the-art security and enough safe rooms to survive a siege. But he'd also insisted on gardens, libraries, spaces that felt lived in rather than defended. Spaces for a life, not just survival. I stood on the terrace overlooking the city, watching the sunrise paint the skyline in shades of gold and rose. Behind me, I heard the door open. Didn't need to turn to know who it was. I'd memorized the sound of his footsteps. Dante's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. The scar from his surgery was still visible at the collar of his shirt, a reminder of how close we'd come to losing everything. "You're up early," he murmured against my neck. "Couldn't sleep. Too much thinking about how different my life is now. 3 months ago, I was serving risotto and writing thesis chapters. Now I gestured vaguely. This. Regretting it? Not even a little." I turned in his arms to face him. "But it's surreal sometimes. Like I'm living someone else's life. You're living our life." He kissed my forehead. The one we chose. It had been a complicated 3 months. Dante's recovery had been slow, painful, requiring more surgeries and physical therapy than Paolo had initially predicted. The power vacuum left by Antonio Rossi's death had triggered a territorial war that was still simmering. And the betrayal by his cousin Luca had sent shockwaves through the family organization. But through it all, we'd been together. I'd enrolled in online classes to finish my degree. Learned the family business from Sophia, who'd become an unexpected mentor. Studied strategy and negotiation and the 100 unspoken rules that governed Dante's world. I'd even started sitting in on meetings, silent at first, then gradually offering opinions. Perspectives that came from outside the insular world of organized crime. To my surprise, people listened. "Isabella called this morning," Dante said. "She wants us to come to dinner tonight. The whole family. She says it's important. Did she sound okay?" "She sounded happy, which is somehow more concerning than when she sounds upset." I laughed. Dante's relationship with his mother had healed slowly after the hospital attack. She'd been angry at first, furious that he'd brought danger to her doorstep. But when she saw how he looked at me, how I looked at him, her anger had melted into something closer to relief. Her son had finally found peace, or at least the possibility of it. "We should go," I said. "Family's important. So are you." "More important?" "Dante, I mean it." He pulled back enough to look at me seriously. "Everything I've done, every decision I've made since that night in the restaurant, has been about keeping you safe. About building a world where you can exist without fear. If my family can't accept that you're my priority now, then they accept it. Sophia told me your brothers are placing bets on how long before you propose." His expression shifted, became unreadable. "Are they? Apparently Marco is taking odds. He's got money on Christmas." Marco always was optimistic. Dante's hand moved to his pocket and suddenly I couldn't breathe. "But I'm not that patient." He pulled out a small black box. The world tilted. Mia Santoro. His voice was steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "3 months ago, you ran into danger to save me. You refused to let me sacrifice myself. You became part of a world that should have terrified you, and instead, you made it better just by existing in it." He opened the box, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the sunrise. "I'm still a monster. Still dangerous. Still everything I warned you about. But with you, I'm also human again, and that's a gift I never thought I'd receive." Tears streamed down my face. "Will you marry me?" he asked. "Will you be my wife, my partner, my redemption? Will you choose this life, this dark, complicated, beautiful life with me?" I should have asked for time to think, should have pointed out all the reasons this was insane, should have been logical and careful and smart. Instead, I said, "Yes." The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise after endless night. He slipped the ring onto my finger, a perfect fit. Because of course he'd planned this down to the smallest detail, and then pulled me into a kiss that tasted like promise and forever and coming home. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, I pressed my forehead to his. "Your mother is going to say she told you so," I warned, "about the prophecy letter." She was right. He tucked my hair behind my ear. "You did redeem me. You made me want to be better, to build something worth protecting instead of just maintaining power through fear." "What are you going to build?" "A legacy. Not just territories and money and violence. Something that matters." His hand covered my heart. "A family. A future. With you." Behind us I heard footsteps. Turned to see Sophia, Marco, and several other members of Dante's inner circle emerging onto the terrace. They must have been waiting inside, watching. Sophia was grinning like she'd won the lottery. "Finally," she said. "I had money on this morning. You just made me $5,000. You were betting on when he'd propose?" I asked. Everyone was betting on when he'd propose. He's been carrying that ring for 6 weeks. She crossed to embrace me. "Welcome to the family, officially." The others crowded around, offering congratulations and jokes and the easy affection that came from people who'd faced death together and survived. This strange, violent, fiercely loyal collection of broken people had become my family, and I'd never felt more at home. Later that night, at Isabella's dinner table, surrounded by Dante's siblings and mother and the people who made up our strange, unconventional family, I looked around and marveled at the impossible path that had brought me here. From a restaurant where I served pasta to the queen of a criminal empire, from a waitress who spoke Italian, to the woman who'd changed everything, from terrified, captive to willing partner. "What are you thinking?" Dante whispered in my ear. I squeezed his hand under the table. "I'm thinking about prophecies, about how your mother's seer said I would either save you or destroy you, and I think maybe I did both." I turned to look at him. "I destroyed the man you were, the one who thought he was only a monster. And I saved the man you could become." "We saved each other," he corrected, and looking at him, this beautiful, broken, redeemed man who'd chosen to love me despite every reason not to, I knew he was right. We'd found each other in darkness, in danger, in the space between violence and vulnerability, and together, we'd built something neither of us had believed possible. A love that survived despite the darkness. or maybe because of it. A love worth fighting for. A love worth dying for. A love worth living for. Isabella raised her glass across the table. To Dante and Mia, she said, tears shining in her eyes. May they have the courage to face whatever comes. Next. Together. Together, everyone echoed. I clinked my glass against Dante's and saw my future reflected in his dark eyes. Complicated. Dangerous. Beautiful. Perfect. The wedding was small. Not because we didn't have people to invite, Dante's network spanned continents, but because we wanted it intimate. Just family. Just the people who mattered. We married at sunset in the estate gardens, under a canopy of white roses and trailing ivy. Isabella cried through the entire ceremony. Dante's brothers made increasingly inappropriate toasts at the reception. Sophia caught the bouquet and immediately tried to give it away. It was chaotic and loud and absolutely perfect. Now, hours later, we stood alone on the terrace where he'd proposed. The party continued below, music and laughter drifting up through the open windows. But we'd escaped for a moment of quiet. Mrs. Caruso, Dante said, testing out the name. How does it feel? Terrifying. Thrilling. Right. I leaned into him. Ask me again tomorrow when I'm less drunk on champagne and happiness. He laughed, the sound rich and unguarded. I still collected those laughs like treasures, each one proof that the man I'd glimpsed beneath the monster was real and growing stronger. I have something for you, he said, a wedding gift. We said no gifts. This one's important. He pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Open it. Inside was a deed. I stared at the words, not quite processing them. You bought me a bookstore, a closed bookstore in Little Italy. The owner was retiring. I thought, maybe you'd want to reopen it. Run it. Make it a place where people who love words can gather. He looked almost nervous. You gave up your normal life for mine. This is me giving you a piece of it back. I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe through the tightness in my chest. If you hate the idea... I kissed him. Poured everything I felt into it. Love and gratitude and wonder that this man existed. That he was mine. I love it, I said when we finally broke apart. I love you. I love this impossible life we're building. Good. He pulled me close, and we swayed to the distant music. Because I plan on spending the rest of my life surprising you. Challenge accepted. And as the stars emerged overhead and our future stretched infinite before us, I knew that whatever came next, whatever dangers or joys or sorrows awaited, we would face them together, forever.